Good morning, and welcome to the third in a series of webinars entitled Why Lancaster? It is hoped that these webinars will give you the opportunity to learn a little bit more about us, about the university, what we do here, and why we are the university to help you achieve your goals. You will hear from academics who teach at the university, students and former students who studied here, and a wide range of staff from departments dedicated to supporting you. Departments such as academic support, student affairs, and of course, the library. But I'm sure you must be wondering who I am. So please allow me to introduce myself. I am Professor Malcolm McIver, and I am the Provost of Lancaster University Ghana. As you probably guessed from my accent and appearance, I am both British and old. Indeed, I have been around for quite some time. But that means I've been fortunate enough to have been in education for more than 35 years. And during that time, I've been lucky enough to work with some of the most highly respected institutions in the world. Institutions such as the University of Cambridge, Washington University, London School of Commerce, and the National University of Singapore, to name just a few. And now I have the good fortune and indeed the honour to be the provost of one of the most prestigious private universities in West Africa, Lancaster University Ghana. For those of you who may not be familiar with Lancaster University Ghana, we are a partnership between Transnational Academic Group, or TAG as it's known, and Lancaster University in the UK. TAG is a multinational company committed to delivering high quality education with institutions in South Africa and Dubai, as well as our university here in Ghana. Lancaster University is one of the top universities in the UK. Consistently ranked in the top 10 in the United Kingdom, Lancaster is also ranked in the international league tables, such as the QS World Rankings, and has also been named the UK University of the Year in 2019 and the International University of the Year in 2020 by the Times and Sunday Times Good University Guide. In today's webinar, I have the honour and indeed pleasure of introducing you to two excellent speakers, Daniel Adkins and Coomerene Rodrigo. Dan is the Group CEO of Transnational Academic Group, and he will be speaking to you today about the very important subject of timekeeping. Coomerene, who leads the Academic Success Centre at Lancaster University Ghana, will be talking about learning support. In addition to that, we also have a testimonial from one of our former students, Akua, and there will also be an opportunity for questions after the presentations. So if you have any queries, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. So I know you haven't tuned in to listen to me, so without any further ado, could I please pass you over now to Mr. Dan Adkins. Over to you, Dan.
Thank you so much, Professor Malcolm. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for joining this webinar. It is my great pleasure and honor to get the opportunity to share with you a little bit about time management. And in the more than 30 years that I have been working in the professional environment and all of the time I spent in school prior to that, I found time management to be an absolutely essential skill to not only surviving, but thriving. So today I want to share with you some of the techniques that I myself use every single day. And I feel that a good way to begin this is by introducing you to 4 people that you probably already would recognize. Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Carlos Slim, and Ratan Tata. These 4 people have several things in common. First, they're all men, although we could have just as easily had women. They are all multi-billionaires. In fact, 2 of them have had the honor of being at the top of the world's rich list. They have all been featured in Fortune and Forbes magazine's rich list at various times. And this last one, 168. Wonder what that means. Well, what that means is they all have exactly 168 hours in a week to accomplish everything that they need to do. Exactly the same as you do. So what is the difference? What sets them apart? Well, you'll find that the route to success is in how you use the 168 hours you have each week. Not only does it seem that there isn't enough time to do everything that needs done, there really isn't. And it often seems like time is just spiraling away out of our control. In many scientific studies that have been done and many informal surveys, the most common complaint from both students and from adults who were in the workforce were fatigue and time pressure. If you doubt that, just ask your parents. I'm sure they'll be happy to explain that to you. Now, knowing how to get the most out of our 168 hours a week is a complex problem. And we know that for every complex problem, there is an answer that is clear, simple, and wrong. So let's look at the clear, simple, wrong answer. You have likely heard time management gurus and self-help gurus talking about multitasking and saying multitasking is the key to being able to get everything done that you need to do, and it's the key to being successful. However, research has consistently shown that no one can effectively multitask, even though most people think that they can. People believe that they can multitask because of the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect is a psychological phenomenon, and it shows that those who know the least about a topic or have the least skill tend to most overestimate their knowledge or skill. When they have tested people, Dunning and Kruger found that those in the bottom 25% of knowledge in a subject tended to say that they were about 75% knowledgeable. Those who were roughly 50% knowledgeable also tended to say that they were about 75% knowledgeable. And those who were really 75% knowledgeable also tended to say they were about 75% knowledgeable. Are we beginning to see a pattern here? The unfortunate thing is that when asked about the knowledge of a subject or the skill in a subject, people tend to report that they're about 75%. And this is regardless of whether they're at the bottom 25%, the middle 50, or they actually are at 75%. So those who have the lowest level of skills in something tend to give themselves the greatest boost in their estimation of their knowledge. Dunning and Kruger found that it was only those who were most knowledgeable or skilled that tended to underestimate their knowledge because they truly understood how complex the subject was and how much nuance there was to it. This is how many people feel with multitasking. Even though no one does it well, we all tend to estimate that we do it well. And we probably have a couple of people that we can think about that we can multitask better than, that we use to confirm our belief that we're actually good at multitasking. Unfortunately, only those who have studied genuine research on this topic understand the problems of multitasking. And the truth is that even though women are consistently shown to be less bad at multitasking than men, no human being is or ever will be good at it. And the study data is very clear. Attempting to multitask or even focus on more than one thing at a time causes about a 40% drop in productivity. When it's been tested, the impacts have been seen to be equivalent to losing 10 points off of your IQ. And I don't think any of us have an IQ that is so formidable that we can spare 10 points. It's the equivalent of missing an entire night's sleep. And we all know how groggy and cotton-headed we feel after missing a night's sleep. It costs the average employee and their company over 2 hours a day in productivity, or nearly 550 hours per year. That's fully 1/4 of a person's working time a year that's lost to people multitasking when no one can do it effectively. And this data is backed up by multiple studies across both multiple industries and job roles, as well as studies of students. So the question is, why? Seems simple enough to multitask, right? We all joke about you can walk and chew gum at the same time. So why can't we multitask effectively? The lost time is due to the switching cost. Every time you switch, you lose a few seconds to a few minutes, depending on the complexity of the task you're working on. The way to think about this is by thinking about your computer. When you switch from one tab to another tab in your browser, the system may pause for anywhere from a second up to several seconds, or maybe even half a minute, depending on the power of your system. The reason is the computer is having to unload the data related to the tab you were looking at from its memory, and then reload its memory with the data related to the tab you just selected. The human brain functions in a very similar way. Our short-term or working memory can only hold a very small amount of information, and therefore every time we switch tasks, our brain dumps whatever was in working memory and then loads its working memory with the information that is relevant to that task. As an example, when I was programming early in my career, it could take up to half an hour of reading a program in detail to get all of the information that I needed in order to correct or add to the program loaded into my working memory. If I then got substantially interrupted or had to switch to another task, I then had to go back and do that entire half hour of reading and loading my working memory again before I could effectively and correctly program. It's very similar to what I tell students when they're getting ready for an exam and they're standing outside the exam hall trying to cram. It's been shown by numerous studies that what you load into short-term memory clears when you move from one room to another. The reason for this is our brain understands that it's going to need to be able to operate in a new environment, and there will be new things that it needs to concentrate on. So when you walk out of a door and into another room, it clears the short-term memory so that it's ready for what you were going to be doing. Unfortunately, if you've just stood outside the door cramming for 15 minutes, you walk through the door and it's all gone. So despite what it may feel like, if you objectively measure the time required to do 4 things correctly, you can do them about 40% faster if you do one after the other than you can if you try and do 2, 3, or all 4 at once. You must remember that we should never confuse motion with progress. Just because you're busy doing something doesn't mean that you're actually accomplishing anything meaningful or worthwhile or that takes you closer to your goal. If you want an example of that, just simply think of a child's rocking horse. The child is rocking back and forth, they're in constant motion, but they're not going anywhere. Or a hamster running in a wheel, similar situation. Very often when we are running the fastest, we're staying in place because we're trying to multitask and it just doesn't work. But even if we save that 40% of our time by not trying to multitask, there is still more to see than can ever be seen and more to do than can ever be done. So the question is, how do we do the right things so that we make the most of our 168 hours? And for that, we can refer to Mr. Pareto. You've probably heard people talk about the 80-20 rule, which says that 20% of the effort is generally responsible for 80% of the results. And unfortunately, 80% of our time is usually consumed with things that do very little to improve our lives. This principle was discovered by an Italian tax collector. At that time in Italy, instead of taxes being taken out by employers before people received their pay, everyone received their wages, and then tax collectors had to go to their house and collect the taxes that were due to the government. And as you can imagine, people weren't exactly willing to give up their tax money easily. So Pareto, who was a tax collector, discovered that roughly 20% of the people owed 80% of the taxes. So if he focused on collecting from those 20% and put his effort there, he would collect a far greater amount of taxes and became a tax collecting hero. And that carries through to what we do today. So how do we figure out what is the important 20% versus the less important 80%? Well, for that, we should turn to one of the top 10 best-selling nonfiction books of all time, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and its companion, The 8th Habit. Literally tens of millions of people have used Dr. Covey's principles to increase the effectiveness of their lives. I have personally. I read these books very early in my life and have followed the principles in them ever since. So if you haven't read or listened to these books, you should. If you follow them, they will change your lives for the better. Now today, we are going to use just one of the principles from this book, the time management quadrants. So across the top, we consider how urgent an activity is. Something that absolutely must be done right now, like the assignment that you have that is due by 5 p.m., is urgent. From there, it scales down on a continuum to not urgent, which are things that you can do at any time because they don't have a fixed deadline. On the left side, we consider how important an activity is. Something that will have a life-altering effect, like getting into university, is important. From there, again, it scales down on the continuum to things that are not urgent or are not important, which are things that will not impact your life, even if you never actually get them done. Everything you do in your life can be put into one of these 4 quadrants. And this is where the 80-20 rule comes in. Doing things in quadrant 1 and quadrant 2 generally don't take more than 20% of the time for most people, yet make 80% of the difference in their life. While most people spend 80% of their time doing activities in quadrants 3 and 4 that make relatively little difference in their lives. This is how you make the most of your 168 hours. The first thing that you have to do is to do everything that is in quadrant 1, because these things are both important and urgent. So they have a deadline and they will make a meaningful difference in your life. You prioritize those based on the combination of urgency and importance. Finishing first things first. Now, immediately following doing that, you then move on to working on your quadrant 2 activities in order of importance. And if you do the quadrant 2 activities, like your homework assignments, as soon as you get them, they'll never end up being in quadrant 1. Now, I'm not saying that we can completely avoid ever having a quadrant 1 activity. Sometimes things happen that can't be predicted, like the COVID-19 pandemic. It happened, it was urgent, it was important, it had to be dealt with. But generally, if you spend the time in quadrant 2 doing things like preparation, planning, prevention, personal development, and building relationships, you can be prepared for those things. With the COVID-19 crisis, within Transnational Academic Group, we had already planned for how we would deal with the situation. So when the pandemic came up, we didn't know what pandemic it would be, but we were ready. When it came up, because we had done our quadrant 2 work, not as much fell into quadrant 1. So you get quadrant 1 and quadrant 2 taken care of, remembering that multitasking will only slow you down. So you do the things one at a time until you're done. Now, when you're working on your quadrant 1 and quadrant 2 activities, you do need to watch out for one thing. It's what is called effective procrastination. That's when you're doing something that appears important, or you can justify to yourself as important, but it really isn't what is most important. Very often the thing that's most important is also the thing that is the hardest to do. So people will keep working on the second or third most important thing and saying, oh, well, I'm busy doing this. But in fact, they're simply procrastinating. So what about quadrants 3 and 4? Well, quadrant 3, these are things that seem urgent, but they're not important. They just need to be ignored along with the quadrant 4 activities until you're done with all of quadrant 1 and as much of quadrant 2 as you committed to yourself to do. Now, I'm not saying never do anything fun. On the contrary, if you stop wasting time multitasking and you get your quadrant 1 activities out of the way and do your quadrant 2 activities so that they don't become quadrant 1, you will find that you have time to do the things that are fun. And then, because you have the time, you don't have to feel guilty about them or regret later on that you did them instead of doing what you needed to be doing. Of course, it's one thing to talk about the quadrants. It's another to see them illustrated. So allow me to share a video with you of Dr. Covey himself illustrating how you can still have time for quadrants 3 and 4 while making sure you get quadrants 1 and 2 complete.
Do you ever feel like you get bogged down in the thick of thin things?
Yes.
Well, that might be analogous to all these little, small things that tend to fill our life. And that just little by little, they just accumulate. Now, your job, you can't go above this, is to get all those large rocks in the jar. Good luck. I'll describe each rocks as she puts them in. What's that one called?
Q2, planning, preparation.
Right. Planning, preparation, prevention, and empowerment. Q2. that which is not urgent but important.
All right. Can I put this down?
Sure. Okay, the next rock she's putting in there is called relationships and family. She's trying to make it so she can get them all in there on the assumption that by moving the other ones around, it makes more space. We didn't look at that third rock you put in there. That's employment, some key employment issue, and then you put major projects here. Yeah, that's fair.
It's not going to work.
That's called Service Community Church. Do you ever feel like this?
Yes.
How many feel like this? You're a hands-on person.
I am. Well. It's not very flat.
She just put down the sharpen the saw. How many frequently do that? I just don't have time today to sharpen the saw. You ever been too busy driving to take time to get gas?
Does that count?
It's almost. Wow, it's good. You know, if it doesn't fit, force it.
Do I really put all of these in here?
Well, no. You can neglect a big opportunity if you want.
No.
Here's something that's called urgent and important. It's a quadrant 1 thing that is blindsiding you, that it's your biggest client, that if you don't get back to that client now, you've given up your vacation. I'll tell you what you can do if you want to.
What's that?
You can work out of a different paradigm altogether. You can do anything you want.
So I can use that bucket. That's what you're saying.
Anything, yeah.
Well, then I'd rather put these in the bottom. And then for the little pebbles on top. Vacation.
Okay, she has sharpening the saw, planning, preparation,
Spouse.
vacation, employment,
Big opportunity.
big opportunity,
Important and urgent. Block of time. Community. Church. Those young children keep looking at me. Glad my husband's not here. No, I dump these in there.
okay?
It's gonna work.
You got all the important things in first, right?
That's right.
as you can see, if you do the big rocks first, you can get everything done that is urgent and important, and everything done that's important. And then you can still find a way to work in those things that are not important, but maybe are just for fun. So maybe instead of spending 2 hours in the evening on social media, playing video games or binge watching Netflix, you spend an hour, but you do it peacefully because you know that you've gotten done what you needed to do, and you can sit there and truly enjoy it instead of sitting there feeling guilty about taking the time for that, or worried about what's going to happen when I don't get this assignment done by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning when I have to turn it in. This has just been a quick overview of time management. There's so much more that we can tell you about this. And when you join Lancaster University Ghana, you'll be able to join in seminars on time management, goal setting, stress management, and many others as part of your student life activities. There are just two more things that I'd like to ask you to do. While you're sitting here watching the webinar, please just find your pulse on your wrist or on your neck. Feel your heartbeats. Then I want you to remember this number: 2,210,000,000 heartbeats. On average, that's all you get in life. Now, I just chose to spend about 2,000 of mine with you because I believe that you're worth it, and that what I shared with you today can enable you to make your life better and allow you to make a positive impact on the world. And I want you to think about, what are you going to do with your 2,210,000,000 heartbeats? Right now, though, you should do something that is quadrant one, something that is both urgent and important. And that is to take the first step for joining Lancaster University Ghana, and either talk to one of our admission representatives today, fill out your application on our website at www.lancaster.edu.gh, email our admission representatives at admissions@lancaster.edu.gh, or call them at 0302-747-700. So I thank you for your time. I hope that you have learned a little bit about how to manage your time better, and I look forward to welcoming you to the Lancaster Ghana family. Thank you so much. Professor Malcolm?
Thank you very much for a fascinating topic there, Dan. I certainly learned a lot. One of the things I learned is that I've been trying to fit 195 hours into 168 hours every single week. But I can certainly relate from my early years to some of the things you were talking about. It's very easy to try and put to one side the important things, the stressful things, and focus on what is believed to be more pleasurable. But the reality is that it just makes you more stressed and you can't enjoy those pleasurable things. You're absolutely right. Get the important things done first, and then you have the time and you have the right mood to enjoy the leisure time. That was very helpful, Dan. I appreciate it very much, and I look forward to being more effective in my workplace as well as we move forward. Now I'd like to take the opportunity to hand you over to Coomerene, who is going to give you an equally interesting and useful presentation on, remind me again, what is it, Coomerene?
On student learning supports.
Student learning support. Thank you, Coomerene. I think the next session we should do should be on memory loss for the elderly.
Thank you, Mark.
Over to you, Coomerene.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this workshop on student learning support at Lancaster University Ghana. I'm going to start sharing my screen here with you. All right. So to start with, just to give you a bit of an introduction about myself, I'm from Sri Lanka, which is in South Asia, and I've been working in Ghana for about 5 years. I've taught in Sri Lanka and India before that. I've studied in Sri Lanka, India, and the UK in the meantime. This is actually my third career. I left university about 20 years ago, and I'd studied sociology, so I worked as a researcher in the field during the war in Sri Lanka, doing psychosocial research. Then I worked in media, so I kind of switched to communication, worked in government, private NGO sectors. And then in the meantime, I've done some teaching qualifications, so I started a career in education. So at this stage, I have about 10 years of teaching experience at various levels, mostly teaching some form of English language or literature, writing. But what's most important is that all these previous experiences I've had also bring to bear on how I teach, how I present things to students, how I also understand the different subjects that our students follow. I'm really passionate about writing, good writing, whether it's academic writing or creative writing. I've been a writer for most of my life. As Malcolm said at the start of this workshop, I head the Academic Success Center at Lancaster University Ghana. And most importantly, I'm really inspired by the commitment, by the dedication and the effort displayed by some of our students. They're brilliant students, and if you join Lancaster University Ghana, you will meet some of them and also learn from them, as well as from us, the lecturers. So moving on a bit, I'd like us to play a bit of a small game using our imagination. So what I'd like you to do is close your eyes for a few moments, close them, and then just imagine that you're starting out at Lancaster University Ghana. It's your first day of lectures, and it's all very new to you. How do you feel? Are you nervous? Excited? Just a bit scared? Do you have a lot of mixed emotions? What questions do you have about your university journey? What if you need help? Who's going to provide it to you? Do you have to figure things out on your own? So when you're a new student, you see that you've got so many questions in your head. So what I'd like you to do is keep this scenario in mind of it being your first day at Lancaster University Ghana, and then I would like you to go to this link that I'll share shortly in the chat box and answer 3 questions. The first is, what are you looking forward to at university? The second, what challenges do you think you might face at university? And the third is, what kind of support do you think you might need when you're at university? All these answers are anonymous. No one's going to see what you write, so feel free to be honest. And you can use the plus sign, I'll show you the website in a moment, to add your answers. I'll give you 3 minutes. So here is the link to the Padlets, and this is what it looks like. These are the 3 questions. What are you looking forward to at university? What challenges do you think you might face at university? And what kind of support do you think you'll need? Here are the plus signs, so you can start typing. It's almost like magic. I can see answers appearing in previous sessions I've done this. So 3 minutes to get started. Okay. Wow. You can also see. Any answers to the third questions? Any guesses? No right or wrong answers. This is all about your feelings, your emotions. So no one's marking you here in any way. All right, 1 minute more, since the answers are coming in. Okay, thank you for your answers. Just going to go through this quickly while it's here. Quite a few answers about meeting new people, meeting people from different backgrounds, making friends, people from different cultures, networking. Yes, a lot of that's going to happen at university. And the more involved you get in your academics and in extracurricular activities, the more opportunities you'll have for that. Expanding knowledge, getting a degree, yes. Leaving home, yes, you're going to be an adult. Learning to study marketing, business, different subjects. And of course, experiencing new things, meeting experienced faculty like all of us here, and studying at a new and higher level. Yes, it's no longer high school. It's going to be a completely different level. Of course, that comes with challenges, just as someone said here, balancing the new freedom and work in school, time management that Dan spoke about before, meeting deadlines, and adjusting. All of those are some of the challenges that you face at university. But part of what student learning support does is help you to face those challenges, to overcome them, to grapple with them, or the different experiences and challenges that you might have, and be successful. There's also managing workload and time management, and maintaining consistency in grades. The type of other areas that you might need support in include essay writing and reading. Yes, there's a lot of reading and writing involved. Again, time management, online skills, very important these days, especially since we are involved in online education. Having someone you can talk to when you feel confused. Yes, that also happens. Counseling. There's also comments about not being clever enough. Let me just put your mind at rest. If you got through to university, you are already one of the successful ones. So it's just about honing that sense of success, that sense of achievement that you've got so far, putting your energies, devoting yourself, committing yourself to something. It's not a matter of being clever enough. I've had students in the past who thought, I don't think I'm doing very well. I've got language problems. I can't write. I don't like reading. But you might be surprised to see how well they have succeeded and how well they have attained their goals. And it wasn't about not being clever enough. It was about being committed, about identifying, as what Dan said, what's urgent, important, and paying attention to those, prioritizing that, and making an effort to really overcome the challenges that you have. And the important thing is that you are not alone in this journey. All of us here at Lancaster University Ghana are there to help you. We provide what's known as scaffolding. We help you to we give you the support to climb higher and higher on your university journey. So again, keeping that in mind, I'm going to come back to my slides where we talk in greater detail about what sort of support you will get. So okay, so learning support, student learning support at Lancaster University Ghana happens in two main areas. One is the Academic Success Center, and the second is the library. This is a logo of some of the workshops we have, and this is a picture of the library that we have on campus in Akua. Now, in the Academic Success Center, we provide support to you in several ways. Firstly, we have workshops every Wednesday from 2 to 3, runs on a bit longer sometimes on different areas of English language and writing because you're studying in English, improving your learning skills, referencing, research, critical thinking, reading skills. Particularly, if you aren't used to reading long articles you don't like reading, we teach you tips and tricks, ways to get around those big words, the kind of complicated vocabulary, all of that, and actually get to the meaning of what the writer is trying to say. We also teach you about writing. You know, if you're writing for Wasi, you might write 450, 500 words. At university, it's considerably more than that, but it's nothing to be worried about. Again, we give you the support to learn how to look at an essay question, identify what the question is asking of you, and how you analyze what you've read, what you've studied, and develop that essay from scratch. Everyone does it, and even if they're new to it, we help you to learn how to do it. The other thing is bespoke workshops that we deliver to module leaders or lecturers. So for example, a marketing lecturer wants a workshop on presentation skills. If I'm doing that workshop, I would speak to the marketing lecturer, look at the curriculum, the module material, and then decide, okay, this is the sort of presentation that students have to do. Or business studies lecturer wants a workshop on writing a program report or review of an organization. Then again, I look at the program, the course module and the material, and then design a workshop based on that. If it's political science, for example, then look at the readings, whatever they're studying. Are they studying democracy? Are they studying theories of leadership? What is it? And then design a workshop based on that. So it's tailor-made for the particular class. Then, of course, we have dissertation writing workshops, where if you are writing longer project reports, or in your third year you're writing dissertations, which is a piece of independent research, which is quite long, 10,000 words. And we have special workshops for that, again, teaching students how to tackle different parts of dissertation and do it successfully. This is a photograph, actually, from one of the workshops that I've done on Wednesday, somewhere last November, I think. And the students are, as you can see from the photograph, some of them are listening to me, looking at what I'm saying, I'm clarifying something at that point. Some of them have already started the activity because it was some group work. They had to sit in groups and do some discussion, answer some questions, do some writing. Some of them are talking to each other, trying to figure out how to get started. So the workshops are very much a safe space for collaboration, for discussion. All questions are welcome. Sometimes, you know, students are also really keen to answer each other's questions, so I give them the opportunity to do that. It's a space where you can learn without fear of failure, and that's the sort of environment that we try to cultivate in all our workshops. Then, of course, we have group feedback, advice, and specific assignments. If your environmental law lecturer has sent you a specific assignment on an aspect of environmental law in Ghana, for example, and you send the question to me, and you're not quite sure how to get started on it, we can sit and have a discussion. If you're supposed to do group reports, sometimes groups come in, sit and talk to me about how they can approach a report, how can they can divide the time, how they can manage it, how can they present it, all of that. Then this is a really big part of my work as well, what we do through the Academic Success Center, giving feedback in individual essays. Again, no one's forcing you to, But this is part of the scaffolding, the support that we provide. If you have a deadline next week for an essay, an assignment, and you just want to be sure that you're on the right track, that you've understood the question properly, that you've written it clearly, that it's organized well, all of that. Students often send it to me, and then I give them substantive feedback on how they could improve, they need to improve, what particular areas they might need to improve. Sometimes the writing might be really good, but the punctuation isn't. So then I would call the student and we go through some punctuation so they understand how to write. Sometimes I look at the references and think, okay, maybe you could include a few other academic references. So then we have a discussion about that. So there's in one-to-one feedback. Then there's coaching sessions. Sometimes students come to me, maybe from different countries, perhaps from Togo or from Cote d'Ivoire, and say, you know, I understand, but I don't feel confident enough in writing paragraphs in English. So then I'd call them in and we'd go through writing paragraphs, how to structure a paragraph, how to make it clear, how to give evidence, all of that. Or else a student might say, I don't think I'm paraphrasing properly. I'm just not getting the hang of it. And then again, we'd sit and do one-to-one writing sessions in my office on campus usually. And then we help the student to come to grips with paraphrasing, which is a big part of learning supports. And then finally, another aspect of academic success is not just training students, helping students, but also supporting the lecturers, the teachers, to teach more effectively. We run a postgraduate certificate in academic practice that helps lecturers to develop their teaching skills, their teaching journey, their teaching styles, look at curriculum development, course design, assessment, different aspects of teaching, and help them think of ways to make their classes, their modules, more student-centric. This is a photograph from one of the workshops we did about a year and a half ago for this particular program. So this is what the Academic Success Center does. At this point, I'm just going to stop going through the slides and just speak to you a bit about, really from a more meta level, about the name itself. It's academic success. We are really focused on your success. We don't want students to fail. We want them to succeed. We want students to achieve their goals. Just to share some stories, I've had students, a couple of students who in their final year, they were heading for a second-class degree, and they decided, no, we want to get a first-class degree. Everyone wants a first class. They were really determined. And they put in a lot of worked with me on every single one of their assignments, and they got their first-class degree. But students who they've been getting C's and D's, and the lecturers have said, you know what, you can actually get A's and B's. Why don't you go and work with the Academic Success Center? And they have. They've taken the initiative to do that. And they have turned their grades around. Just a few simple changes, sometimes a different way of looking at writing an essay or reading something. And they've got the B's and C's that they deserve, the A's and B's they deserve. And then there were lots of students who'd come in through foundation and the first year saying, we're really scared about reading and writing. We don't like reading, not very good at writing, don't feel confident about it. But they find their voice. They work with the Academic Success Center, they come to workshops, they try to implement what they learn in workshops in their writing, and they get really good grades on their assignments, they do really well at exams, and they pass with very good results. Success is entirely achievable, but as we often stress, it's also up to you as a student to make that effort to come and see the Success Center and give us the opportunity to help you. So then we're moving on to the library, which is a really big part of learning support as well. Massive online library, lots of ebooks, academic journals, newspaper articles, magazine archives, book reviews, a lot of resources available, so much more than you could ever imagine. We have OneSearch, which is a special search engine accessible to all students. I'll take you through that in a moment. Then we have a trained librarian who's there to help you with looking for the resources, to help you to navigate all this information. It can be quite overwhelming. Again, the library does workshops on conducting research using tools to different classes in collaboration with the module leaders. So for example, in preparation for a specific assignment. Then we have, again, one-to-one consultations with the librarian for those who want to look for credible academic resources for a course, perhaps. And then finally, there is the physical library in the Learning Common on our campus in Ghana with a curated collection, excellent books and journals, also accessible to all students. So just to show you a bit about the library. This is the library webpage. You can see this is a photograph I shared earlier. And we've got one search here where you can run searches for all the resources you need. We've got the different portals. We've got different other services available here as well. And the different databases, ebook collections, newspaper databases, everything's just literally at your fingertips. So we could, for example, try to run a search for, let's say, education in Africa. See what that brings up. Distance Education Africa, we've got about 28 results, looking at different countries. So you can see just a very, very niche area that we're looking at. You still have a lot of resources available through the library. Back to this. We also have several other services that we provide to students, which are not technically learning support, but definitely related to academics and well-being. One is academic services, where a team is there for you to help you to navigate the different procedures and systems of being a student at Lancaster University Ghana, using systems such as Moodle for submitting assignments, being in touch with their lecturers, other students, particularly important these days, since we're all learning online. Getting your timetables, they sort everything out for you. If there are any issues, they help you to sort out timetabling issues. And also they maintain personal and academic records for you. Then we've also got counseling services, which really cares about, there were questions about work-life balance, health and well-being. So that's what counseling services is there for. If you feel that you are, everything is just too much, you're struggling a bit, you want to talk to someone about being away from home the first time, learning to be an adult properly the first time, you can always make an appointment with a counselor and go and speak to them. And they might give you, different coping mechanisms, ways of managing your workload, managing your mental health, taking time for yourself. And that is also part of the service that we offer. Now, we're also going to talk about how things have changed. What I've told you about so far is how things were when we were having a physical campus. We could walk in, see each other, talk to each other. The world has changed now in the past 4 or 5 months. And we're now all working, studying, teaching, learning online. So with COVID-19, how have we continued in the Academic Success Center? So workshops are delivered via Zoom like this, or Microsoft Teams, sometimes Google Hangouts, depending on availability. And there's interactivity through tools such as Slido, which is a polling tool. There's Padlet, which you used just earlier in this workshop. There's Whiteboard, which is a collaborative sharing tool. Other multimedia such as YouTube, blogs, also on MS Teams and Zoom, you can create blogs and sharing spaces. So all of that helps to create some degree of interactivity. Resource material is sent to students. It's uploaded on Moodle, it's recorded, and it's also sent via email, because you also have to keep in mind that there might be potential IT connectivity challenges. Then there is availability during regular working hours. The Academic Success Center and the library are both available. If you need to contact anyone, you just need to drop them an email. You can set up a meeting. If you need to do a WhatsApp call, that's also possible. So even though you can't really walk into an office, you can still make an appointment. You can still contact someone and say, I need to submit an essay next week. I'm really struggling. What do I do? I've had lots of emails like that during this lockdown, and I've worked with the students to help them to meet their deadlines, to achieve their targets. So distance actually hasn't been a massive challenge in that sense. There's still one-to-one feedback to students, online consultations. The library, a lot of it is online, so that is an advantage anyway, and students have made use of that. There's a library team available for consultations, and there is also access to a lot more resources, because a lot of publishers like Cambridge University Press and Oxford University Press have made a lot of their material available for free downloads during this period. So our library has also been really busy downloading extra material so that we can help students even more. So, you know, going online seemed like a bit of a challenge at first, but it was amazing and surprising how very swiftly we moved to this online campus and this online model of learning and teaching, and how we tried to make that seamless transition so that students are given learning support, even if they're not on campus, even if they're at the other end of a phone line, an internet line in another country, whichever it is, that seamless support has continued. That brings me to the end of my presentation. If you have any more questions about Lancaster University Ghana, about enrolling as a student, about the sort of support we provide, you can check the website that I've taken you through, parts of, and you can also write to admissions. That is the end of my presentation. I think we're having a, I'm going to hand over to Akua, who's going to speak about her experience of being a student at Lancaster University Ghana. Akua, over to you.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Akua Boateng. I am a business graduate from Lancaster University of the class of 2017. As a prospective student of Lancaster, I would say you are in for a treat. Personally, for me, Lancaster University Ghana was a preparatory ground to get me to where I am today. First of all, you have an amazing staff. You definitely meet diverse people, and you learn a lot. And for me personally, I learned a lot with regards to the extracurricular activities that I participated in. I feel like with academically and socially, the school equips you to be able to take on the world once you're done, because you tend to learn a lot of things. You tend to grow your skills in different ways. For instance, academically, with your group works, with your other colleagues, you tend to learn how to relate to people. You tend to take on responsibility. And it's the same when you come out into the working world, because you have a certain experience of how to deal with people in different ways, because dealing with people is one of like the most important things you need to be able to be equipped with. And I think Lancaster University Ghana provides that in many different ways. And there are a lot of opportunities you can take advantage of. For instance, as Coomerene was talking about, Coomerene herself is one person you definitely need to make sure you have in your corner with regards to help with schoolwork and writing, as well as critical thinking, being able to basically apply every single thing that you have studied, basically apply every single thing that you have studied. And also there are certain things like the careers office. That's also something that you definitely need to take advantage of, because the career office helps you and places you in internships for like during vacation, which also helps you get an on-field experience as to anything that you want to try out. So I would basically say that I really did enjoy my experience in Lancaster University Ghana, as there were just so many things that was made available to me for me to become the person that I am today. Thank you. I would pass it on to Malcolm.
Okay, thank you very much, Akua. That was very good. And certainly I think it's helpful for potential students to hear positive stories from former students. It's I know sometimes it can be very easy to doubt when an old academic like me speaks, but when we hear something coming from a student such as yourself, I think that carries far more weight. So thank you very much, Akua. Thank you also to Coomerene for a very interesting session on study skills. I know it wasn't study skills, but I do apologise, another memory blank on my part. But certainly a very helpful and a very useful session for everybody, I think. We have a number of questions coming in. Some of them have already been answered, but I will go through them for the benefit of those people who are listening at home. And the first question we have is there some sponsorship or scholarship package available? And if I could ask Eric to answer that, please.
Yes, Malcolm, thank you for the question. Before I answer the question, I just want all attendees to understand that admissions are in progress. So once they are done with the session, they can contact the admissions team. So we get back to them and then we start the process for them. In terms of the scholarships, we have various scholarship opportunities for our students. Currently, we are running a scholarship package under the name Academic Excellence Scholarships. We have a Professional Excellence Scholarship. We also have a Provost Award Scholarship. We have even a Family Grant Scholarship and also Early Bird Scholarship. So various scholarship opportunities are available for students who are interested in studying with us. I will encourage such students to visit our website, download the scholarship forms, and then within 48 hours we get back to them with the consideration and approvals.
Thank you very much, Eric. Okay. Next we have not so much a question, it's more of a comment, and it is, the Academic Success Centre sounds cool. It makes the whole idea of getting good grades way more achievable. It certainly does, and Coomerene may want to add something to this, but one of the underlying philosophies that we have at Lancaster University Ghana is that learning is a journey. Nobody at Lancaster University Ghana expects you to arrive on day one with all of the answers and all of the skills. If that was the case, then we wouldn't have a job. We will support and help you, though, on that journey to acquiring the answers and the skills. And that's where the Academic Success Centre comes in. And I know not only from the testimony we've heard today, but I've heard it from the students and staff as well, how grateful they are to the Academic Success Centre. At the end of the day, we want you to graduate. We want you to be successful. Is there anything you'd like to add, Coomerene?
Yes, Malcolm, I do agree with you that learning is a journey and everyone starts out at the beginning. And one thing I did want to add also is that we really invest a lot in providing this sort of support to our students. And students also benefit from the class sizes, more one-to-one attention, the student-teacher ratio. All of that plays a big part in the support and the scaffolding we provide. And it's that sense of community, the sense of family, LGU family actually, is quite big. I've sat through 3 graduation ceremonies, and I can say that when every student walks up, I can pretty much remember 1 or 2 of the essays they've written in the past 3 years, because that's how close we are to our students and how much effort we put into supporting them and helping them to achieve what they are capable of, their potential.
Absolutely. I'm also reminded of when I first went to university myself, and I know that's a long, long time ago, but I remember it as if it was only yesterday. And I know somebody asked earlier on about what if they weren't clever enough. I remember going to university and looking around and thinking to myself, I shouldn't be here. Everybody else is so much cleverer than me. And I not only did I manage to complete my first degree, but I actually enjoyed my first degree. And then I went and I studied a master's. And again, I felt myself thinking, wow, all of these people are so much cleverer than me. And I successfully completed my master's. And then I did a PhD. And again, I looked around and I thought, I shouldn't be here. These people are so much cleverer than me. And I successfully completed my PhD. And I can now look back and I can see that it is a journey. And if you have the right people to support you in this journey, you can achieve anything. And I firmly believe at Lancaster University Ghana, we have the right people to support you. Okay. One of the other questions we have is, please, what are you if you are transferring to another Ghanaian university? Now, I'm not entirely certain I understand the question, but that's never stopped me from trying to answer it. If you are transferring from Lancaster University Ghana to another university, then we will certainly provide you with the transcript. But the reality is, it is up to the other university in Ghana in terms of what they will credit you with and whether they will accept you. If we're talking about the foundation program, then the foundation program is recognized by Lancaster University in the UK. And certainly you can use that foundation program to transfer into Lancaster University. But I would argue that you will get exactly the same program in Ghana and you will get it for a fraction of the cost. So really, I would not advise anybody to transfer, but that is your decision. One of the other questions we have is there a deadline in applying? And if I could hand that one over to, I'm just trying to think, Henrietta, could you take that one? Or maybe if I can hand it over to Eric then.
Yes, currently admissions are ongoing. We are anticipating that the admissions will be ending by September ending.
Okay, thank you very much, Eric. A very topical question and a very important question now. That is from somebody in Nigeria who would like to know how practical it would be to start school in October, considering the current COVID-19 pandemic. Should I consider applying next year? Well, my answer to you would be no. I would advise you against deferring if at all possible. At Lancaster University Ghana, we realise that the situation is fluid. And I think every university realises that the situation is fluid. And I don't think any single university can tell you with any certainty what is going to be happening in September and October. But as Dan said earlier on, at Lancaster University Ghana, in partnership with Transnational Academic Group, we were already planning for this eventuality before the universities closed. That meant that we were able to transition very smoothly from a traditional face-to-face delivery in the classroom to remote delivery when the pandemic first hit. What we've been doing since then is making plans for the delivery of our programs in the coming academic year. So as we approach the new academic year in September, October, we have in place a number of strategies that will enable us to ensure that we can continue to deliver our programs to students wherever they may be. Currently, we are hoping to be able to deliver our programs using what's called a blended learning model. That means that part of it will be delivered online, part of it will be delivered in the classroom. but we are also planning for the eventuality that we are not able to open until the next calendar year. And we will be in a position to continue delivering our programs for those international students who are still experiencing travel problems. In terms of deferring for a year, if you defer for a year, then you will actually find yourself 1 year behind all of the other students or all of the other people in your cohort. You also find that financially, you never ever catch up that 1 year that you've missed. There is also the possibility that cannot be discounted that course fees and university fees next year might be higher, nor can you discount the possibility that next year there may be a second wave of the pandemic, which forces people to defer or to stay at home even longer. So my advice to you, and in fact to my children, because I have a daughter who's going to university in October, is to grasp the opportunity whilst it is there. Okay, we have another question, and that is, what are the units for business in the foundation program? And if I could pass that over to Daniel. Daniel, could you respond to this listener? Hello, Daniel. Daniel, can you hear me? Daniel, your microphone is on mute. I know you're trying to speak, but could you please unmute your microphone? Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's great, Daniel. So yes, what other units do we have in the Business Foundation program?
Okay, so under the Business Foundation program, there are a couple of pathways. There's accounting and finance, and economics and IR, business studies and marketing. So for accounting and finance, it's intro to management accounting, intro to marketing, and intro to economics. For economics and IR, there's intro to economics, intro to management accounting, and politics and society. For business studies, it's intro to management accounting, intro to marketing, and intro to economics. And finally, for marketing, it's intro to marketing, intro to economics, and intro to management accounting. What is worth noting is that these are modules that you take in the third term based on the structure of our foundation program. There are some core modules we do in term 1 and term 2. These are critical thinking, research and academic writing, foundation maths, digital information systems, project management, innovative management, and leadership. We do this in the first and second trimesters of the year. And then the ones that I mentioned earlier, these are the ones that we do to complete the program in the third term. These are the modules, Malcolm.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Okay, we now come to a question for the admission team, and that is, how long does it take for the admissions team to get back to a student once their results have been released? Could I hand that over to you, Eric? And could I also hand another question to you, and that is, a student who writes, I am yet to complete my final WASA exams, and I'm not sure when results will be available. Will they still apply?
Okay,
so let me questions for you.
Okay, that's fine. Let me take the WASI result. Student can still apply with their transcript or report cards, awaiting the final release of the WASI result. So student can go ahead and then apply. He still has the opportunity. He or she has the opportunity to apply. So there's no issue in that regard. To the second question, once the results are released and the student has completely filled the application form, a maximum of 72 hours, we get back to the student with the offer.
Okay, thank you very much, Eric. Now we have a question and a comment from Jackie. Thank you very much for your comment, Jackie. Hello, first of all, thank you very much for this information session. As a French student, do I have to take any kind of language exam? Okay, the programs that we offer, Jackie, are part of the Lancaster University portfolio, British University. And as such, yes, there is a language requirement for all of our programs. However, if students are having difficulty achieving that language requirement, or they need help and support, we do actually have an English language program that students can do before commencing on the program. Just wondering, is there anybody else on the panel who would like to add to that? Henrietta, is there anything you'd like to say? Okay, I will take Henrietta's silence as
Hi, Malcolm. Sorry. Can you say that again?
Okay, I saw that your name appeared on the question regarding English language. I just wondered if you wanted to add anything to it.
So, yes, as you had mentioned, all our courses require that you have to have a requirement in English. So you would need to send to us your results, as Eric, the admissions manager, has mentioned. If it's the case that you need to top up with English, we have the EPP program. That's for students who don't have any English background. You can take that either for a term or two. And then after that, you can get onto either a foundation program or undergraduate program.
Thank you very much. We have a very specific question now regarding the law program. The question is, could you elaborate on the law program, please? And if I may, could I pass that one over to Daniel, if you could give this particular person a little bit more information about our law degree.
Okay, so our law program, the structure of the law program is being done in connection with the Ghana Law School, so that all the modules that you take whilst pursuing the law program, when you're done with it, it gives you easy access upon passing the exam to enter the Ghana Law Schools. So the program is for a period of 3 years, where you do 4 modules in the first year, you do 6 modules in the second year, and then 8 modules with a few options, depending on where you want to end up in the third year.
Okay. Thank you very much, Daniel. Okay. And of course, if you want more detailed information about our law program or any of our programs, please contact our office and you be put in touch with one of the academics who can give you more information about the program. Okay, we've got a couple of questions that cover issues already identified. For example, due to the pandemic, our classes for the new session in October are going to be online. I mentioned earlier on that yes, we will have a blended learning approach, but we don't yet know what's going to happen in October. But whatever the government decides, we have a strategy that will enable learning to continue, whether the university is closed, partially open, or fully open. We also have another question about scholarships. And again, Eric has covered that, but in essence, very simply, yes, we have a range of scholarships and bursaries. And again, if you want more information on that, please feel free to contact us directly. Okay. If I can, a question here about the foundation program. How will I know if I'm required to do the foundation program? Again, Eric, could I address that one to you?
Yes, the foundation program, in terms of the entry requirement, we have what you call program-specific entry requirement and then the general entry requirement. So basically, I will just have a brief on the general entry requirement. Students with WASI are required to have a minimum of 6 credits, and this should include mathematics and English language. Students also from French background must also have what we call international baccalaureate, and with that they have to have an average of 10 points for both the English and also the mathematics. We also accept students with GCE O-level, and with such category of students, we expect students to have a minimum of 5 subjects with a minimum of C credit and also 1 year of advanced subsidiary level. We again accept students coming from America. If you have an American high school grade, you should have a minimum of 3.0 as the entry requirement. Aside this mentioned requirement, if you are not within what I've mentioned, students may contact us. We assess the person's credentials and then the result, and based on that, we know where to place the student.
Okay. Thank you very much, Eric. And a question here for you, Coomerene, if I may, and it's from Tibi in Nigeria. Are there educational counsellors that talk to students and advise them while the academic year is in progress? Coomerene?
Yes, just unmuting myself. Okay, so in terms of educational counselors, we have a career section that helps you also in terms of finding internships. But if it's more about academics, the people that you can speak to are me and the Academic Success Center. I've ended up having to advise students about different subjects they take, how they deal with it, how it might impact on their future potential careers. I've also referred students to academic services who also provide that sort of service, and they also know the future modules that students can take, so they're also able to give a bit of an overview, a long-sighted approach to that. And then the module leaders also sometimes talk to students about the educational counseling. I must also add that part of the learning support is that we have academic counselors. Every module leader has a one-to-one meeting with a set of students each term, and to kind of check in on their progress, see how they're doing, how they're managing with the subjects, how they might want to change subjects around, things like that. So that's also something that exists, and all module leaders are committed to doing that. All full-time module leaders are committed to doing that, in addition to the Academic Success Center and academic services. So there's a lot of help available if you want to talk things through at any point. And I'm very happy to help students with their academic counseling. I've also helped students select courses for their masters at other universities and given recommendations, work with them on their statement of purpose for master's applications, things like that. So you get an idea of what we actually provide. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much, Coomerene. If I could now go to Matilda Coker, who asks, is the syllabus for each course available online? Yes, it is, Matilda. In fact, everything we do is available online, and all of our students have a Moodle account so that they can access the lessons, the lectures. They can have tutorials with the module leaders, with the lecturers, and they can even submit coursework online via Moodle. So yes, we are very much prepared for online remote delivery, but equally, we are also very highly skilled in terms of classroom delivery. Two questions here actually about changing their course once they have started their studies. Again, could I refer that one to Daniel?
Yes, you are able to change your program if you let us know on time and the program that you need to get on. It's a really simple process to do.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Very short but very succinct answer. Right. And the final question we have is this session recorded? So where can I watch it again if I missed something? The answer is that yes, this session is recorded, but I really don't know at this moment in time where you can access it. Maybe if I hand that one over to Henrietta, you could shed some light on this for us, Henrietta.
Okay, thank you very much, Malcolm. Yes, the session is recorded and you'd find it on our social media pages. So either you check our YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn as well. All the recorded sessions will be posted there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Henrietta. And finally, and I very appropriately, I hope, is not so much a question, but it's more of it's a comment from an anonymous attendee who says, I like Lancaster Ghana. Thank you very much for that. I'm sure we would like you too if you joined us as a student. If you are a student with us already, thank you very much for that recommendation. So this brings to an end the third of our webinar series in terms of why Lancaster. If your questions haven't been answered, or if something occurs to you after this webinar is finished, please use the contact details I said earlier and should now be appearing on screen shortly. If you contact us via our phone numbers or via our website, we will do the best we can to answer your questions and also support you in any future applications you may wish to make. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and I look forward to seeing you in the future, either in future webinars or hopefully in the corridors of Lancaster University Ghana. Thank you very much. Take care and please stay safe.